Hello everyone. On behalf of all organizers, a warm welcome to the Win Watson Webinar Series 2020. I am Paresh Vora and I am Director India Operations Win Foundation. The range of challenges in water and sanitation in India due to diverse geography, people and culture require thousands of innovations to be trialed, refined and adopted in technology and products, processes and protocols, delivery and business models. Further ground level empowerment, managerial and technical skilling is required to enable communities and other stakeholders to adopt these innovations, often mix them with traditional methods and knowledge to meet needs of a modern society. These webinars aim not only to showcase leading on-ground innovative projects, but also spur discussions and collaborations among diverse stakeholders and most importantly, take such innovations to the communities to improve their quality of life. This series is jointly organized by some of the leading institutions and social organizations in this domain, namely IIT Kharagpur, the oldest IIT whose School of Environment Sciences and Engineering work on economical and effective engineering solutions to environmental issues. Arid Communities and Technologies, a leading organization working on participatory groundwater management in some of the toughest arid and saline regions in India. CEPT University Ahmedabad, an internationally renowned architecture and town planning university whose Center for Water and Sanitation has implemented the pioneering performance assessment system for water and sanitation service delivery in over 900 cities across 6 states in India. IIT Bombay, another leading IIT whose Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas has enabled its faculty and students to apply many technologies to rural settings in Watson, health, energy, and so on. IIT Gandhinagar, a dynamic young IIT with innovative approach to curriculum and research, whose Center for Sustainable Development is taking up challenges in several domains, including water and sanitation. And Win Foundation, a young non-profit foundation focused on innovations for sustainable social impact in the twin domains of water and sanitation and maternal and child health. We also have a diverse audience, experienced researchers and faculty members, NGOs, industry experts, government officers, independent professionals and enthusiastic students from India and also some from other countries. Today's session is from School of Environment Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur, and a beginning to the series by oldest of the IITs. Professor Binay Kanti Datta is the introductory speaker for today's webinar. Professor Datta has served as an eminent faculty in chemical engineering for over 45 years in various institutes of repute. These include University of Akron, Ohio, NIST Boulder, Colorado, Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey, and USCPA, Cincinnati, Ohio in USA, the University of Alberta and Western University in Canada, University of Technology Petronas, Malaysia, and the Petroleum Institute, Abu Dhabi. He has authored over 100 papers in peer-reviewed journals and 3 books used as textbooks in many universities worldwide. He has several international patents to his credit and has acted as consultants to several industries and organizations. Professor Datta was president of Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers in 2005 and served as chairman of West Bengal Pollution Control Board for over 3 years. Presently, he is a visiting professor at the School of Environment Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur. Without any further delay, let us welcome Professor Datta to begin his talk. Thank you, and I also welcome all the delegates again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vora. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. Rahul, you have to.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Vora, for your kind introduction. And you have given a very good background. In your speech, you have given a very good background of today's workshop. So I'm thankful to all of you for asking me to give an introductory address in today's Win Watson webinar at the beginning day. In this webinar, the name is the webinar is moving towards sustainable sanitation and efficient water use practices. So thank you for asking me to share some of my thoughts and ideas, and mainly some of the information which I could get from different sources on, particularly on wastewater treatment and recycling and reuse, what is happening all over the world and what is happening especially in our country. So these are the things which I will touch upon. That clean water, that beginning, it began with millennium goals. So then the sustainable development goals, and this one is clean water and sanitation, which is the topic of today's discussion. It comes under sustainable development goal 6. And then I'll speak on this water and wastewater scenario at different places, including our country, and recycling of treated and reclaimed wastewater. What are the technological challenges? Then reclaimed water market and social acceptability, because that is a very big issue. How we look towards reclaimed water and how comfortable we are in using it. And the Indian and international scenario of recycling and needs of the day. These are the things I will try to touch upon. Okay, so the Sustainable Development Goal 6, which includes this clean water and sanitation, it started this Sustainable Development Goals, this set of 17 goals. Action on this type of goals and activities were started 5 years ago, following the UNDP Millennium Development Goals, and there was one goal in Millennium Development Goals, goal number 7, that also included this water and sanitation, all these issues under the name ensure environmental sustainability. And the Millennium Development Goals were thought to be, or stated to be, a big success, and that is why the Sustainable Development Goals as a follow-up started in the same year, in 2015. So the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, that is, the objective is to ensure access to water and sanitation for all. And the other aspects are safe and resilient water supply for economic prosperity and environmental sustainability, equitable and affordable drinking water for all, and sustainable sanitation and hygiene also. Okay, so there are quite a few challenges associated with this goal number 6. Like any other goal, it has its, any goal under this Sustainable Development Goals of 17 goals. Each goal has its challenges. So the challenges associated with goal number 6, these are the institutional challenges, then societal challenges, financial challenges, and technological challenges. There are a few other challenges too, but these are the major challenges. Let us have a look at it, and what kind of actions have been taken, and what are the outcome. In our country, this slide is not very clear, but even then, in our country, this much of this Sustainable Development Goal number 6, it has been, much of it has been achieved, like the water supply, like sanitation, because we have a very big program of Swachh Bharat. So under that program, the sanitation has improved a lot, and also the rural drinking water mission, under that mission, drinking water supply has been ensured in many places all over the country. So then these are some highlights on water and wastewater. The global freshwater withdrawal is 4,000 cubic meter per year, a huge quantity, of which about 44% is used up, 56% is released into the environment. The water which is used up, mainly it is because of agricultural purpose, and whatever water is recycled back, either in a retreated form, or much of it comes to the environment again. The used up water or wastewater, much of it comes back to the environment untreated, and about 70 to 80% of the wastewater all over the world, it returns back to the environment without any treatment. In our country, the sewage, because in our this webinar, the sewage and its treatment and wastewater treatment, it is the main topic. So the sewage generation, let us have a look at it. What the amount of sewage generation in our country? It is about 62 billion liter a day, and the treatment capacity is 40%. But as a matter of fact, this 40% is what is in paper, depending upon how many wastewater treatment plants have been set up, but not all of them, as a matter of fact, not all of them are operative. And it is a matter of fact again that we have to take action not to allow the wastewater to go back to the environment untreated, because the cost of no action is much more than the cost of action. This slide, it gives how the water treatment scenario is evolved in agriculture. Agriculture is the biggest user of water. About 70% of the total water which we use, it goes for agriculture. About 20% to industries worldwide. In our country, the figure is less. In our country, the industrial use of wastewater is about 10% of the total, but globally it is about 20%. So this picture gives how this water use in agricultural, in industry, etc. it evolved, and this picture gives the global scenario of consumption pattern. How much water is absorbed in agriculture, used in agriculture, and how much of it is lost. Lost means it goes into the soil. It is taken up by plants, and a part of it is released as agricultural drainage. For municipal water supply also, a part of the water, a major part of the water it comes back as wastewater, and in industrial water use also. For industrial water use also, the significant part is released as wastewater. So this picture gives a view of the treatment and wastewater release pattern. And this picture gives an idea about how much wastewater is generated in our country. As I told you, it is about 62 million. It should be 62 billion liter per day, or 61,754. It is according to CPCB estimate. And the treated sewage is about, untreated sewage is about 38 billion liter per day, and this is the treated sewage is about 23 billion liter per day. And this is the projected growth of water demand from 1990 to 2050. The projected growth from 2010 to 2050 is much higher, and in 2050 it is expected that 10% of the water will be used for agriculture. Okay, then reclaimed water. What is what about the cost, the market, the social acceptance? So water scarcity is a very big issue, as we all know, and what we need is that the wastewater management should be revolutionized, because huge quantity of wastewater is released into the environment, and we should make all attempts to treat this wastewater and treat it to a level so that it can be used again, not only for industrial purpose, for municipal purpose too. And so this wastewater policies and water politics too, this have to have a relook. And use of reclaimed water, which is already used for other places. What happens that this use of reclaimed water is repugnant to many. We have as a psychological barrier to the use of wastewater, and I'll tell you later that if there is an environmental buffer in the way of use of treated wastewater, then it becomes acceptable. For example, if we treat wastewater, municipal wastewater, when we throw it in a river, the river receives all the wastewater. But then if the river water is taken up and treated and supplied as municipal wastewater, we don't feel any psychological barrier, because there is an environmental buffer. The wastewater is not being directly used, but it is being discharged into a much bigger reservoir, like a river or any other lake or anything, And then if this water is taken up again and treated and supplied as municipal wastewater, that psychological barrier is much of it is gone. So that is why we tell about indirect potable reuse and direct potable reuse. If we want to use the treated wastewater directly, then it is direct potable reuse. But if we use it indirectly, means we discharge it into a lake or any water body, and then we draw the water from that lake or river and treat it again and supply it, then it does not it is no more unacceptable. This picture gives some idea about the cost of wastewater. So this picture was given by Price Waterhouse in a report a few years ago. So these are the different cost patterns for using 5-year payback period or 10-year payback period. So the price varies from ₹16 to ₹30 as they calculated and reported. I'll skip this one. So in this picture, in this slide, I show the cost of wastewater in terms of Indian rupees per kiloliter in different Indian cities. The highest is in Delhi. In fact, this is the production cost. Highest is in Delhi. It is 146 rupees per kiloliter. This I have got from Price Waterhouse Cooper report, which was published in 2016. This report was prepared for the government. So these are the cost figures. It varies from 146 rupees to as low as 19 rupees in Surat. Okay, this water recycling. What is the Indian scenario? In our country, we have about the 17% of global population is there in India, but we have only 4% of global fresh water. That makes the situation in our country pretty much difficult, pretty much critical. And the wastewater treatment capacity is much low. It is 40% theoretically. Theoretically means based on the treatment capacity of the waste treatment plants we have. But as I told you before, we all know that many of them are not working. And then poor sewerage network. That is another big issue, because in order to treat wastewater, we have to collect it. But in many places, this sewerage network the condition is very poor. Much of the sewerage, it cannot be collected. It is not collected. So there is no question of treatment. So this thing has also to be improved. And our national water policy in 2012, that is the latest policy we have. The first national water policy came up in the year 1988. So in this modified water policy also, the emphasis has been placed on water recycling. And there are many other issues like access to technology and finance. These are very, very big issues. And so far as wastewater treatment and recycling in industries is concerned, I can remember, in fact, this started in the year 1990, 30 years ago, and that started with Chennai Petroleum Corporation. I still remember, I read in the newspaper at that time when it started long ago. And even now, this Chennai Petroleum Corporation has set an example, because they use only 10% of their water consumption as fresh water. All others are the recycled and treated water. And the cost, I have given some cost figures which I got from a report published 6 years ago. Okay.
We should
so
finish in about 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, we should finish in 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. I'll then skip a few slides.
Yeah.
Well, so far as utilization of this treated water, there are quite a few examples. This Singapore's New Water, that program started about 20 years ago. And I can still remember, I used to read in the newspaper the Straits Times when I was in Malaysia in early, last decade. Anyway, now this picture it shows how they use the media to arouse the consciousness among the people for use of this wastewater. And now the people say that and it is truly it is said that we should utilize the principle of circular economy for not only for generating water but also generating resources from wastewater. Because if we can generate different kinds of resources, it is possible, especially the phosphorus and nitrogen, then it will be of great help. So I'll conclude with this slide that what are the needs of the day? There should be a sound national policy and also a regulatory intervention, because if there is a policy only, many people may not abide by that policy. But if there is a regulatory intervention that a part of the wastewater has to be used, recycled in the industries. In fact, while visiting quite a few industries under a CPCB program during the last 3 years, I have seen that many industries, they can utilize the wastewater after treating, but they do not. So there has to be a regulatory provision for this. There should be a PPP structure may help, and adoption of suitable technology. Particularly, it should be the more efficient technology means the unit should be smaller and unit should be diversified. So there may not be enough space to build a big wastewater treatment plant, but if the plants are smaller in size, it is decentralized, like the one that Professor Ghangrekar will speak on. So that is the concept is canal top. So the canal through which wastewater is being discharged, on the top of the canal we make a small wastewater, small but very highly technologically efficient. So that is probably what we should move forward to. So it is necessary, I tell you again, that what is necessary is a policy and also regulatory intervention. It should be followed by use of upgraded technology and generation of consciousness among the people, the public alertness and awareness about wastewater, treated wastewater reuse, and particularly we should, if necessary, we have to use this environmental buffer to make it acceptable. Otherwise, it should be made acceptable. In course of time, I believe it will come. There will be provisions and regulatory intervention so that treated wastewater is used. So this is what I have to say about this wastewater treatment. It's recycle and reuse. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Datta, for the illuminating talk. Now we move on to the main speaker for this session, Professor Makran Ghangrekar, Professor and Head, School of Environment Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur. Professor Ghangrekar has led several research projects and acted as consultant advisor to various government and industrial agencies for solving water pollution problems for over 25 years. His area of expertise encompasses design, implementation, monitoring, and performance evaluation of diverse wastewater treatment processes. He has wide experience, including as principal investigator in several projects funded by the DST, DBT, European Union, DBT and DST international calls like UKRI with UK, CIFIPRA with France. Professor Ghangrekar is the Indian team. Professor Ghangrekar is the Indian team leader for the multi-institute, multinational 4-year mega research projects titled Saraswati 2.0 that aims towards identifying the best available technologies for wastewater treatment. This project has several leading Indian and European universities, research labs, and companies as research partners. Professor Ghangrekar has authored 188 journal publications and 40 book chapters. His team is also 3 times recipient of the Young Gandhian Technological Innovation Award. Presently, he heads the School of Environment Science and Engineering and P.K. Sinha Center for Bioenergy and Renewables, and is also the chair professor for Aditya Chobe Center for Rewater Research. Welcome, Professor Ghangrekar, and let us listen to his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Paresh Bhai. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much for a nice introduction, and good evening to all of you, all the participants, and welcome for this first webinar series, first one in the webinar series. And I would take privilege to remove this mask so that I will be able to speak better, because there is nobody around in my cabin. Unfortunately, I tried it from the distance place, but I could not get connected, and I had to rush to the department. So, thank you all of you for being here with us today. Yes, give me a second. Yeah. So today I will be speaking on moving towards the sustainable sanitation and efficient water use practices. Professor Datta already initiated the talk and told about the importance of this topic. So present scenario, as already initiated by Professor Datta, the water scarcity and ensuring the water security is a global concern right now. Industrialization and rapid population growth has increased the water requirement. We all know and aware about it. The freshwater availability is reducing day by day, and we anticipate that by 2025, the freshwater availability will be around 5,700 meter cube per capita per year. And in this scenario, we really need to think of what could be the better alternative. The treated wastewater could be used or could be exploited as an alternative source because it's a perennial source. All the season it is available. It's a need of an alternative source for a water because freshwater quantity is reducing day by day. The usual practice is to treat the wastewater to meet the discharge standards and discharge it into water body or use it for agriculture. The generated at the community level, it is generated at the community level, thus reducing the cost of the transportation. So presently we are adopting centralized sewage treatment plant. That means the wastewater generated, the sewage generated from the city is taken to a common point where far away from the city, and it makes it difficult, even if we are giving adequate treatment, to supply that fresh water, that treated water back to the city because huge network pipe and investment is required. So instead, if we adopt decentralized sewage treatment, treat the sewage to the desired level, this treated sewage can be made available for many of the non-kitchen uses, or even if you treat properly, even for the domestic use also, it can be supplemented. Huge cost is required to be invested for creating the sewage infrastructure and wastewater treatment plant. So decentralized sewage treatment also may help in reducing the cost of sewerage infrastructure. However, it will add on to the cost of sewage treatment plant because instead of single plant, we will go for multiple plants. Addition of few tertiary treatments in the conventional secondary treatment system that we adopt can make this treated water suitable to be reused for different applications. According to the CPCB statistics as per 2016, in India, about 62,000 million liter of the wastewater is being generated every day. Out of this, greater than 90% of the sewage generated from rural area and greater than 50% of the sewage generated from the urban municipality is discharged untreated. That means if we put together both these, then around 2/3 of the sewage generated in this country is being discharged in the water body without receiving adequate treatment. Domestic wastewater majorly contains the organic matter, suspended solids, nutrients, pathogens, and very less concentration of other heavy metals and other compounds. Advances and improved lifestyle lead to the occurrence of emerging contaminants. So these are all additional challenges that are being put, like pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, the personal care products that we are using, cosmetics that we are using. These are ultimately getting discharged into this domestic sewage, and we need proper technology for removal of these because some of these compounds are endocrine disruptors, and even at lower concentration, they can have adverse effect. Many areas in India are water stressed and spend huge cost for the freshwater procurement and treatment. In countries like India, where we have a water distribution system, more than 20% of the water get lost during distribution because of the benign losses through the leakages and faulty joints. This makes locally available treated water, wastewater, an attractive alternative to the fresh water in the water stress area. Basically, if we try treating sewage and reusing for even non-kitchen purposes, nearly 40 to 60% of the freshwater demand can be reduced if we supplement or augment it with the treated sewage. And socially, it should have acceptance because anyway we are not taking it for potable purpose. If the wastewater is properly treated, it could become a assured source irrespective of the season, as many of the cities in India we have routine water cut during summer. That will not happen if we adopt the practices of treatment of sewage and supplying it as to fulfill the freshwater demand. Typically, the wastewater treatment plant comprises of primary treatment, secondary treatment. These are common in Indian scenario, and the recently built up sewage treatment plant also have a few of them have tertiary treatment in place. However, it is very common in Europe and other developed countries in US and Canada. So the primary treatment necessarily comprises of core screen for removing coarse and fine screen for removing fluidic solids, grit chamber for removing settleable inorganic solids, and then equalization or flotation unit maybe these are optional. Secondary treatment is provided for removal of colloidal and soluble organic matter, which may be this biological treatment, maybe aerobic or anaerobic, followed by secondary sedimentation tank to settle the sales produced during biological metabolism and removal of the organic matter. And this clarified effluent, generally called as a secondary treated effluent, that may meet the discharge norms set by the Central Pollution Control Board by 1986. But the recent norms cannot be met by the only secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment may be required, which may be comprising of adsorption, membrane filtration, disinfection, electrodialysis, or electrocoagulation. Several other technologies are coming up in the recent time to replace this secondary treatment. I already described this. The tertiary treatment is intended to be meeting the requirement for further removal of organic matter, further removal of nutrients that are escaped from the secondary treatment. It also reduces the turbidity to make water crystal clear. It is meant for removal of microorganisms so that the water is free from any bacterial contamination. It also could be supplemented for removal of color and odor, if any. Not that the sanitary sewage has a color. If the organic matter is removed, the color is lost because it is because of the presence of organic matter. But in case of municipal wastewater, there may be some residual color because of the receipt of small scale industries, and we have to plan if it is there, then plan for removal of this. And we also have to recent times we are showing more concern about the removal of emerging contaminants, though they are in the micro concentration, but they have adverse effects. The drawbacks of the conventional STPs in India, the lack of skilled operators, so the improper management of this sewage treatment plant, and if the centralized sewage treatment plant is improperly managed, then it leads to the whole lot of pollution in the receiving water body because it's a single treatment plant, and if it is not being operated properly, obviously the whole amount of sewage will be discharged, either partially treated or untreated. Absence of stringent action against defaulters, that is not, though the rules are there in place, but they are not strictly implemented under Indian scenario. Many of the cities are still without the functional STPs in India, even in eastern part of India. The sewage treatment plant concept has come up only in this decade. The Orissa, West Bengal have very few sewage treatment plant. Jharkhand has only oxidation plant wherever the sewage treatment plant exists, including Chhattisgarh also, only limited capacity in the Raipur. No other places sewage treatment plant exists. So this is the scenario what we have. The discharge norms for the domestic wastewater as per Environmental Protection Rule 1986. The broad discharge norms mostly they are classified as suspended solids about 100 milligram per liter and biochemical oxide demand BOD around 30 milligram per liter. The other discharge norms are there. These are the general standard for discharge of treated effluent into water body. However, these standards have been recently revised by National Green Tribunal, and what they recommend now is biochemical oxide demand should be less than 10 milligram per liter. So this is overview. The characteristics, the range depends on the type of city. pH 5.5 to 9, total suspended solids less than 20 milligram per liter. Chemical oxygen demand should be less than 50 milligram per liter. Nitrogen as a total nitrogen less than 10 milligram per liter. Total phosphorus should be less than or equal to 1 milligram per liter. And coliform presence should be desirably less than 230 coliform numbers per 100 ml. City-wise, this is some relaxation has been given for class 1 cities. The cities having population more than 1 lakh, but less than 10 lakh, and other cities or the marine discharge, there is some relaxation that is given by NGT. However, the standards that we talked about, they are applicable for mega metro cities and metro cities. So typically where we have population more than 10 lakhs. So this is a standard that we have to meet even for the existing sewage treatment plant, and they are unable to meet these requirements. So NGT has said by the end of 2020, these plants, even existing treatment plants, should comply with this discharge standard. So these discharge limits are not achieved by the secondary treatment alone. Hence, the wastewater discharge is still inadequate to be reused for different applications, as it still contains pathogens, emerging contaminants, nutrients, organic matter, and odor. For facilitating recycling, hence tertiary treatment is must, and the technologies presently used, they are energy intensive, like activated sludge process demand a lot more energy to aerate that wastewater, and many of the municipalities are reluctant to spend that amount of energy, and hence partially treated sewage is being discharged. The aerators are not being operated at its full capacity, and there it lacks meeting the stringent effluent norms. The requirement of further upgradation, they are like augmenting the conventional secondary treatment with advanced treatment techniques. We can install the multi-stage filters with multi-stage advanced oxidation process. A lot more AOP systems are coming up. Choices of tertiary treatment depends upon the robustness and reliability of the process. Coupling of mid and low energy consuming technologies may bring the sustainable solution. And high energy intensive membrane processes which are currently being used, the reverse osmosis which has been popularly used in India and also in abroad. So we need to find out the alternatives for these, because when I go for reverse osmosis, the cost of my processing sewage treatment may become around 35 to 70 rupees depending upon the capacity per kiloliter of the sewage that I am processing. So if I am producing the treated water at this cost, then there will be less acceptance. So we need to find out sustainable solutions, sustainable alternative. So I think for giving sustainability to the sewage treatment, the foremost thing that we need to look upon is producing reusable quality treated water, so which will help us in reducing the stress on the freshwater demand, because many places, even if people are ready to pay, the freshwater is not available. There is a scarcity, particularly in summer season. We can exploit the technology which may provide us opportunity to harvest algae. So harvested algae can be used as a feedstock for biofuels, so that will bring the revenue revenue generation. The upcoming technologies like microbial fuel cells can be employed to generate direct electricity while treating wastewater. The sewage sludge, which is generated in the existing sewage treatment plant, can be exploited as an activated biochar, so that will also fetch the returns by selling or employing that biochar. The methane recovery using anaerobic processes is a common and adopted model now in many places in Asia and even African countries, and even in South American countries. Bioelectric toilets, the concept that we developed at IIT Kharagpur, can be adopted for cluster of houses located away from the electric grid and water supply lines. So that may make the sanitation sustainable, and we should exploit further the value-added product recovery using the recently invented concept, microbial electrosynthesis. So various chemicals can be synthesized from this wastewater while simultaneously providing adequate treatment to this wastewater. So these are the things that we can explore in the near future. With the Wills India Miswar Foundation, we constructed a demonstration plant of capacity 0.3 MLD at IIT Kharagpur. It is designed and developed as a follow-up of the polishing treatment, offering polishing treatment to the existing UASB reactor. The idea here is, the objective here is to further remove organic matter, nutrients, suspended solids, pathogen, emerging contaminants, and turbidity from the UASB effluent. And our objective here is to provide the alternative technology to the membrane processes, still making the water quality suitable, or produce a water quality which is close to the potable water quality. Though at present we are not encouraging this water for potable purposes, but we are sure that this water can be reused for any other purposes than non-kitchen reuses. The salient features of the water treatment plant, their modular design is adopted to reduce the footprint. Three-stage disinfection is being adopted, which is a combination of chlorination, ozonation, and UV disinfection. for pathogen destruction and destruction of emerging contaminants. The system has a minimal moving parts so that the perishable items or frequent maintenance can be reduced, and hence the cost of operation can be made minimum to produce effluent to meet the discharge norms in absence of membrane filtration and to produce close to potable quality treated water. This is what the existing facility we had, the UASB reactor followed by the high rate oxidation pond, high rate algal pond. However, we would like to replace this high rate algal pond with the new modular treatment plant that I propose. This is the performance of the UASB reactor throughout the year. So it can give around 60 to 70% COD removal efficiency and produce the effluent having total COD concentration in the range of say around 60 to 77, 60 to 80 milligram per liter, varying with the season. And this we need to treat it further to make it the reusable quality. So the effluent of UASB reactor is being admitted to the first anaerobic MBBR, then to the aerobic MBBR. More than 50% of the aerobic MBBR liquid is recycled back to the anaerobic MBBR to facilitate denitrification. According to the nitrogen concentration, we have to play this balance of recycling, mass balance of the recycling. Then the effluent of aerobic MBBR goes to the flocculator to remove flocculating particulate matter, that is bacterial cells, will be agglomerated and they will be settled in the lamella clarifier. Then we have a filter fill tank where chlorination can be done. That we have kept it optional depending upon the need. We will decide the chlorine dose. It goes to the DMF filter followed by UV and ozonator. We are trying to experiment the order of this disinfection, whether the ozonator or UV or chlorination, the order we will decide accordingly. Then it goes to the activated carbon filter to produce finally treated quality water for any reuse for that matter. This is the picture, photograph of the existing sewage treatment plant. Because of the COVID situation, we could commission only up to secondary treatment. So both the MBBRs are commissioned and plant is being operated for MBBR. Tertiary treatment, that the ozonator, and you can see the UV light that we could not install because the working manpower is not allowed. It is restricted because of the lockdown, and it's only we are operating right now with the biological reactors at present. But system is there in place now. Today, the government of India has given some relaxation, so we expect that we will be in a position to commission full plant within a week now. So this is the performance that we are getting. The COD removal efficiency from the UASB effluent, we are getting about 76%, producing 28 milligram per liter effluent COD. You can notice that when the COD is 28 milligram per liter, the BOD, though we have not sampled it many times, but whatever few sampling that we did, the BOD remains around 5 to 8 milligram per liter, so necessarily less than 10 milligram per liter. So definitely, even with the secondary treatment, it is meeting NGT norms. The nitrogen concentration is 3.5 milligram per liter, so still meeting NGT norms. Total suspended solids, instead of 10, we are getting 1.5 milligram per liter without using membrane filtration, so that is attractive. Even we are trying to find out the removal of surfactants. So anionic surfactant like SDS, the input is 2.2 milligram per liter, which is reduced down to 3.3 milligram per liter. So quite encouraging results that we obtained. The similar model that we are trying to replicate at the higher capacity, and that the plant is under construction at IIT Kharagpur, and we expect that we will be able to produce. Our target cost of the treatment is to restrict the treatment cost less than 15 rupees per kiloliter of the water, and we are very much within that limit. That's what the initial experience is telling us. Generally in India, the water supply cost varies from rupees 5 to 55 rupees per kiloliter. And if we are able to treat water at 10 to 15 rupees per kiloliter, there is net saving. At IIT Kharagpur, we are spending 27 rupees per kiloliter of the fresh water supply. So if we are able to save the 10 to 12 rupees per kiloliter, that is a net saving to the institute, where we are serving 30,000 people with 27 rupees per kiloliter of the water supply rate. This is the overall plan of the 1.35 MLD sewage treatment plant. The standalone I already covered it because of shortage of the time. I'm just skipping this. The high rate algal pond, which is at present performing, is giving ammonia removal about 85%, phosphorus removal about 91%, and MPN about 2 log scale reduction is possible. Before moving to this 300 meter cube sewage treatment plant, we initially modeled a pilot of 3 kiloliter per day treatment capacity, But instead of lamella clarifier and those to reduce the footprint, here we have provided MBR system in it. So this hybrid reactor consists of two-stage MBBR, anaerobic and aerobic MBBR, followed by membrane bioreactor. So these are in series, and 1 year we operated this plant, and you can see the performance result when the influent COD, average influent COD to this plant is 228 milligram per liter. The influent COD is 90 milligram per liter. Sorry, 90% COD removal efficiency is obtained, and the influent COD is 24 milligram per liter, and BOD of the influent is brought down to 5.8 milligram per liter from input of 151 milligram per liter, demonstrating 96% BOD removal efficiency. TSS removal substantial. The effluent has TSS of 6.4 milligram per liter. The nitrogen removal also you can see reasonably encouraging. The effluent has TKM in the range of only 6.6 milligram per liter, and phosphorus also is brought down just to sorry, TKM is 2 milligram per liter, and phosphorus is brought down to 0.17 milligram per liter. So, encouraged with this experience, we have scaled up this 300 meter cube sewage treatment plant. But instead of membrane bioreactor, to reduce the cost further, we provided flocculator and clarifier there with 3-stage disinfection. So, this is even the MPN. You can see from 10 raised to power 6, it is brought down to just 10 raised to power 2. So, in the hundreds, we could brought down an SDS removal of similar magnitude as we got in the larger treatment plant. We got 85% removal. So reasonably encouraging result that we got, and the costing is the operational cost of this plant of 3 meter cube per day capacity is 5.62 rupees per day, considering only operating cost. Whereas if we consider capitalized cost, it will come down because of the lesser size, 20.85, so nearly 21 rupees per kiloliter at 3 meter cube capacity. Whereas if we expand it to 1 MLD capacity treatment plant, then this cost is coming down to around ₹8 per kiloliter. That includes also the disinfection, cost of the disinfection, and the cost of the membrane process. So this is the payback period. Those who are in the commercial venture want to know. So depending upon the water tariff, the investment cost will, the payback period, return period will depend. Higher the water tariff, obviously the payback period will be smaller. Lower the water tariff, the payback period will be high. And the last the very interesting innovation that we did at IIT Kharagpur, comprising of microbial fuel cell based on-site sewage treatment. So you can see a toilet to which this MFC-based treatment system is attached, and this is treating the sewage to the desired standard, so that this treated sewage can be recycled back for flushing. This is the details. Those who are interested, they can contact me. I will share more details. Because of the limited time, I'm just skipping going into detail of the electrochemistry. But what encourages you just to see under different organic loading rate, we operated this system, and really it produces the effluent with when we operated at organic loading rate of 0.2, it produces effluent with the BOD of 15 milligram per liter and COD of nearly less than 50 milligram per liter, and also MPN in terms of 100 MPN per 100 ml. So this water is suitable. There is no smell in the surrounding of the toilet, and this is what the signal variation that I am demonstrating. And this water is suitable to be reused back for flushing. So using solar power pump, we are pumping this treated water back to the elevated service reservoir. So this way, it is making the water-free toilet. People have to carry 1 or 2 liter water only for cleaning purposes, and the evaporation loss that the system is facing with the variation in the season 8 to 15%. This evaporation loss could be compensated by the water that you are using for cleaning, and this way it is a perpetual water saving toilet which is generating electricity, and this electricity generated can be used for illuminating the toilet at the night time. In India, where the toilets are located away in the rural area, particularly ladies are reluctant to use this toilet at night because of the fear from the insects attack or animal attacks. So this will encourage, this model will encourage application of this kind of toilet. And you can see the toilet premises being illuminated by the electricity generated on site while offering treatment to the sewage and producing reusable quality treated water, which is absolutely meeting requirement as per newer NGT guideline for horticulture or using back for flushing the toilet. Another similar model we set up at the NTPC NETRA, which gave Noida, New Delhi, which gave the similar result. although the input COD characteristics was very high because it was directly receiving wastewater from the guest house generated. And the last to move, how could be the way forward? We are looking at the optimization of 0.3 and 1.35 MLD treatment plant operating condition so that we can enhance its performance. The energy requirement can be reduced further, the maintenance cost can be reduced further. And based on this experience, we will provide the operating guidelines for replication of these plants at the different places in India. Further research on automation of the technology developed for increasing its applicability and replicability that we are looking into it at IIT Kharagpur. The knowledge dissemination for enhancing the public outreach, providing knowledge-based support towards interested government and non-profit organizations for replication of this technology, the research towards further reduction of the cost and operational redundancies for future replication of the installations, and producing trained manpower. So that this is missing at present in India. So that also we are trying that in this process we should train manpower. They are having expertise in operation of STPs. So this is my research group. Thanks to all of these young research scholars who are putting in really hard work to make all these things happen. Without their efforts, I would not have been in a position to share the photographs to you. And I deeply acknowledge the funding received from the WIN Foundation and the support that they are extending time to time. I also acknowledge the Aditya Chobe Center for Water Research at IIT Kharagpur. They have donated 2 crores for undertaking this water related research. The name itself, water, means we are trying to reclaim the polluted water to make it potable quality, reusable quality treated water. And Department of Science and Technology for giving us funding. Save water, save tomorrow. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And thank you, Pareshji, for giving me this opportunity to present our research. Over from my side.
Thank you, Professor Ghangrekar. You can actually leave that last slide, I think, Rahul, that since now there are no presentation, that last page seems indicative of what we need to do. You can leave that. We don't need my video right now, actually. I think the save water slide is a nice one, if that is available, but doesn't matter, whatever, you know. So now we quickly move on to, we have other experienced faculty members also from Professor Ghangrekar's team, and I will ask them to very quickly give a few views, few salient points within their 2 to 2.5 minutes. Maybe first I'll call upon Professor Brajesh Dubey. Professor Dubey, you can unmute it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's after 2 wonderful presentations. There is not much to add, but I'll just try to emphasize on a few basic things. So in the Indian context as well as in the global context, when we talk about sanitation, sustainable sanitation, first thing we need to recognize that this excreta and wastewater is not a waste. It is a valuable resource that can be reused and recycled. So that thought process has to come from government programs, from the policy, as well as for our technocrats. And when we look at sustainable, it has to be economically viable. It has to be socially acceptable, because if you look at social, just within India, what is acceptable in southern India may not be acceptable in northern India, because people are different in different parts of India itself, and then of course things are different in globally too. And technically and institutionally, it has to be appropriate, whatever solution we put forward. So as we saw in the previous presentation, that we have made several sewage treatment plants, but they are not working today. So why they are not working? What actually went wrong? How to make it work? And having that holistic approach, that's what the sustainable sanitation is all about. So this concept of sustainability is actually more of a direction rather than a like a end point. So we have to work on the process to reach towards a sustainable sanitation. And I would also like to emphasize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution here. You will have different solutions in different parts of India itself, and of course it will be different in the different parts of the world. So at the end, I would like to say that to put it in a very simplified way, the very basis of sustainability is actually to use resource wisely without impairing the possibility of future generation. And as the slide right now talks about save water, save tomorrow, so we have to make water available for future generation as well. So I will end with that.
Okay, thanks, Professor Dubey. You made two very important points. One is the waste to wealth, and the other that treat waste as wealth. And see, it's a hard work to actually convert to waste to wealth, but we have to plug at it for long. And then you also talked about sustaining the plants, maintaining them day by day, year on year, month on month, year on year. And that requires a lot of skilling, a lot of engineering skills also at grassroots level. Professor M.K. Tiwari, your few points, salient points. Yeah, Professor Tiwari.
Yeah, thank you, Horas. As I will continue from where basically Professor Dubey, what was he was discussing. So it's not just about like reusing the waste, but we have to take a more holistic approach in terms of the integrated urban water management. Okay, because when we look at the urban water demands, we like conventionally mostly see that there are groundwater, there is surface water, and the recycled or reclaimed water is now being pushing as a resource, which is very good indeed. Okay, but then when we use this resource, how we can in an optimum way integrate all these resources to meet all the urban demands so that we reduce our requirement on the freshwater resources, which is basically seeing a deterioration in terms of quality and loss in terms of the quantity as well. Further, this will not I was following Professor Datta, he earlier mentioned that this is not possible without having the regulations and implementation of those regulatory norms which are being put through. Okay, so there is a strict need of the regulation, because until unless taking the point from on the sustainability, until unless we are able to produce a financially viable option to the end users, they will not look for alternate resources. If we make them water available for free, or if like fresh water is available to them for free or at very low cost, so they will not be willing to use the recycled water, even say for industries. So we have to make the treated wastewater competitive in terms of the cost. So that can be done only first thing when we the freshwater cost is also made on a sustainable basis. It should not be like heavily subsidized as it is now. So that should come in terms of the cost. Then the equity can be it can be comparable or it can be compared for equity. Second point is we should look for the concept of the fit for purpose treatment, because when we basically propose or try to reuse or recycle water, we have to see what is the objective that we want to meet. We may not necessarily want to treat the water to its fullest level. We need not an RO treated water if we want to willing to reuse that water for gardening or that purpose. So we may leave the nutrients or we may leave some other constituents as it is. We can selectively target what is not good for that particular application, that should be removed or that should be treated. So that the concept of fit for purpose treatment must be basically incorporated while designing our treatment system, aiming for reuse. So that's what basically I'd like to add a couple of points.
Yeah, so you added the cost, I mean the fit for purpose, and you also added comparative cost so that you make people pay for water, otherwise exactly. Obviously they don't. And now Professor Shamik Chaudhary.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that my colleagues have already covered most of the points, but I would like to add something different from what the discussion has been so far. So first and foremost, we have to realize one thing is which we all know is water is quintessential for attaining the sustainable development goals, basically the 2030 sustainable development agenda. But given the current situation of COVID pandemic, we are using water in even greater volumes than what we used to use previously. Okay, because mostly for disinfection and for other cleaning purposes. And in many places we are using water for mixing water with other disinfectants and spraying it for regular sanitization of public places, indoor areas and all. What we are forgetting is post-COVID, or while the thing is ongoing also, these disinfectants are actually going into ultimately ending up into the different water bodies, and they are ultimately getting converted into giving rise to disinfection byproducts, especially the chlorinated disinfectants. So we also have to keep in mind that in the near future, we may have to face a new challenge of removing these disinfection byproducts also from the different wastewater streams, because these disinfection byproducts can actually also lead to different types of diseases, especially they are responsible for, they are mostly mutagenic as well as carcinogenic. So if we have to really achieve the 2030 sustainable development goals, we also have to now we also have to face this new challenge and figure out ways how we can develop technologies where we can um, uh, remove these disinfection byproducts from water bodies. And of course, at the same time, the main thing that we should always focus on, that is what we are sharing on the screen, that is save water. So if we are able to save water, then the amount of water that we are using at a day-to-day basis. So we also have to learn how we can save as much as water possible, rather than wasting water and ultimately spending more money to treat that water and then reusing it. So if we are able to save water at the source, that will also help us save, come up with more efficient technologies, and then we are also able to attain the sustainable development goals in a more holistic manner. So that's all I would like to add to all the discussion that has been going on so far. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Shamik Chaudhary. Now we enter a very interesting part of questions. There are a number of questions which are interesting, and I'll throw them to Professor Ghangrekar. And Professor Ghangrekar, maybe you will be the best qualified in terms of who should answer it. Either you answer it or one of your colleagues, you can relate to them. So there is first question from one Dr. Vanita Prasad. Why are we not using treated wastewater after biosystems having N and P, that is nitrogen and phosphorus, for irrigation to reduce treatment cost? Associated question is, why add tertiary treatment when it can be used after secondary treatment and disinfection for irrigation?
So if I try to answer, yes, Government of India is encouraging that. After secondary treatment, the sewage is being actually encouraged to be reused for irrigation purpose, but it do contain pathogens, and it cannot be used for cultivation of the crops which are likely to be eaten in the raw form. So it can be used for cultivation of the cash crops, but not for all the crops, and hence tertiary treatment for disinfection may be necessary. Though nitrogen and phosphorus removal may not be required at that stage for irrigation, but disinfection is necessary depending upon the restricted or unrestricted irrigation. So that is what the norms are. So, but we are encouraging. I know in Nagpur they are using the secondary treated sewage for irrigation purpose.
Okay. So she did mention also disinfection. So I think you are basically confirming, but there could be, so I guess one question would be that probably that is there use case of water somewhere else? I mean, maybe there are places where the water has to be used by some other purpose, and you do need to do that full treatment to take it to higher purity levels. So is there are the use cases like that?
So we do have, I mean, in India, several places people are using Air India, even Indian Railways, they are using treated sewage for various purposes. Even several colonies, housing schemes in Mumbai, Delhi, and even in Kolkata, they have the sewage treatment plant. And in this state, government of West Bengal, they expect that any housing complex generating more than 70 meter cube per day sewage should have their own sewage treatment plant. Though it is not, I admit that it is not being strictly implemented, but many of the bigger housing schemes have their sewage treatment plant, and this wastewater is being recycled for horticulture purpose, or even in the commercial establishment, they are treating it to make it water suitable to use for cooling. So cooling water recycling is being used. I hope I answered.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And there is another question from. There is a question from our WIN Foundation Executive Director. Of course, partly it's already been answered. Is water price should be comparable to electricity and force consumers, especially the individual household and industries, to use, to conserve water usage. And also farmers should be incentivized to use treated wastewater. So what do the speakers think? I think Professor Shamik Chaudhary already mentioned this. So it's partly answered. If you want to add anything, you can add, but it's already answered that is what you are also looking at.
Yes, we should try to make the the price of water supply as cost competitive as electricity as well, because it is only then we will be able to supply like we will be able to provide water in an equitable manner to all people throughout the country. Okay,
Yeah.
so it should be of course at the comparable price like electricity.
There is a question.
If I can add to this,
Yeah,
in fact, there is an interesting study. What we did is we basically took the electricity to water bill ratio for several places. So we took from several Asian countries and from India also. So at most of places, like most of the towns, even like we take the case of Singapore, or we took a few cities in Australia, a few cities like Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and few other. So Phnom Penh, all these cities we took, and the water to electricity ratio, electricity to water bill ratio was of the order of 2 to 3. But in India, it varies, that too only for the metered consumers, where basically they pay price based on the charges. It was somewhere between, means it was ranging between 10 to as low as 60. So that's the disparity between water and electricity price ratios that we pay. So until unless it is basically bought to the sustainable level, there is always a kind of demotivation for going for the investment to use the recycled water, because fresh water is available at very cheap prices.
Right. And when we don't recycle water, there is another cost which the society pays. It is to let all the bad water, I mean the polluted water filled with pathogens, pollutants, keep flowing around in various streams, rivers, everywhere. So
it does, but unfortunately,
I mean, yeah, it's a surprise on society.
But unfortunately, our economists don't consider that cost. So they are more so like whatsoever is the tangible cost and benefits, they account only for that.
There is a question from Ms. Sudha Goel. I'll move to the next question, and then we might have time at the end for some more discussion. From Sudha Goel, why are you proposing 3-stage disinfection of wastewater, that is chlorine, ozone, and UV? So why are 3 stages required? That is what I could gather from her.
The 3 stages are required because the pathogens may not be, all pathogens cannot be removed either by UV or by chlorination. They have their own resistance. And also the xenobiotic compounds which are finding in concentration. So to get rid of these compounds, we have installed 3-stage disinfection process. It is not only the disinfection, it is also working as an advanced oxidation augmentation tool. That is why we have 3-stage system: chlorination, UV, and then ozonation. Also to get rid of the xenobiotic compounds.
Okay, we have one question, actually 2 questions from one, he has just put his first name, John. So John asks, thanks John for attending and asking. So he's asked 2 questions. I'll take his second question first. Is there, I mean, is it ethical to think of sustainable toilets where in many places of India lack even basic sanitary necessities? Slightly, not directly linked to wastewater treatment, but if people can answer, it will be good.
It's a very good question that John has asked. I mean, when we talk about the sustainability of the toilet and then we ignore other sanitation issues, that's fine as a social concern. But we as engineering researchers, we have come up with the sustainable toilet system. And he is very right talking in terms of cost. The bioelectric toilet that I present, it cost me around 1.5. Even with the mass production, it will cost me around 1.5 lakhs of rupees to install that on-site treatment system to facilitate recycling of the treated water back to the toilet. But look at the need. I mean, if we construct a toilet, Government of India has actually constructed more than 8 crores of the toilet to provide access to the toilets for all. But these toilets are not being used because several places there is no water supply. For maintaining cleanliness in a toilet, for use of the toilet, you may require 8 to 10 liters of the water. That much quantity of water is not available. ultimately leading to the filthy condition in the toilets, and the toilets are not being used, and then people again switch over to the open defecation. So we need to have the treatment solution for on-site treatment of the waste generated. The waste storage is not a solution that will further aggravate the health issues problem, and hence such kind of system should come up. I'm not saying whatever we have researched is the ultimate, but we need to focus on to provide the sustainable solution or reduce down the cost of the existing system. That is what we are trying at IIT Kharagpur. But people may come up with other alternatives which are more affordable, and we are trying to experiment to reduce down the cost.
So I think, I think toilets are a very continuous, research area, because they have received a lot of attention and a lot of toilets have been built. So now, after 2-3 years, there will be a need to do some research and bring better toilets, because some of those will fail. John has asked another question. Yeah, sorry.
Government of India is saying at the first phase we will build a toilet, and in the second phase we will try. I attended that meeting in Delhi. So they said in the second phase we will take up the treatment part of. Unfortunately, it has not been taken up that seriously.
Okay. So his other question is actually more related. His first question was more related to the topic under discussion. Are there any suggestions for Indian industries to reuse treated wastewater in industrial processes? I think there is a policy which is being enforced or in a phased manner as the plant capacities come up. But I think Professor Ghangrekar can answer in greater detail in terms of regulations governing usage of treated wastewater in industries.
I can answer this question. We are
Your voice is can't hear you.
Yes. Yes. Should I address this question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I told, when I gave the introductory address, that there should be some kind of, one is technology, another is the facilities, another very important thing is regulatory provisions. The industries, I told you that I have visited quite a few industries, many industries rather, during the last 3 to 3 years as a part of a CPCB program. And many industries, for example, paper mills, they are making craft paper from waste paper. All the water after treatment they are discharging, and they can easily recycle that water because they don't need snow white paper, craft paper just for packaging. So this is always possible, but there should be a regulatory provision, and if it is there, they will be bound to do it without compromising the quality of the product. But that is very much necessary, this regulatory provision, that you have to make use of the water you are discharging, right? And if it is done, they can save money, and otherwise, if necessary, they should be fined. That is what I feel, because I was heading the West Bengal Pollution Control Board for more than 3 years. I have seen that in my own eyes. So there should be strong regulatory provision and enforcement, and that will change the scenario a lot, particularly in respect of reuse of treated water in industries. It is possible without harming, without compromising the quality of the product, but there must be regulatory provisions that should be enforced.
Professor Ghangrekar, there was a recent, last year there has been a regulation, it is still a kind of policy and probably not very strictly regulated, that industries must not use fresh water whenever recycled water is available. Can you throw light on the current status of that? Professor Ghangrekar, you are on mute, or Professor Dubey.
Right now, we have not done that. But NMCG, the National Mission for Clean Ganga, they have mandated that the industries will be encouraged to use treated water, treated sewage from the municipality first, and then only the fresh water will be available. So this is what Government of India level, the Ministry of Water Resources, they are encouraging.
Okay, I think you are away from your microphone, so we're not able to hear you well. There is one question more. I will keep checking if there are some more which have come in after that. Yeah, there is one. There is few more has come. So One is, how is this new, from Aditi Mishal, how is this new technology developed different than soil biotech plant? Are there comparative studies?
Soil biotechnology basically utilizes. Am I audible now?
A little better, yeah. Maybe you should be nearer to the mic. Then.
So soil biotechnology basically it's a reed-based treatment system developed by IIT Bombay. Professor from IIT Bombay. The land that required for soil biotechnology is huge. So our technology, what I demonstrated, the footprint requirement is very less. Soil biotechnology requires a large area, and that's the basic difference. But that also works. But soil biotechnology for satellite township, remote areas where the population is less, the soil biotechnology can also be used as a sustainable sanitation solution. But for where the population is concentrated, for example, on our campus, if we are to adopt a soil biotechnology kind of solution, it might require for sewage generated about 7 MLD on campus. We may require about 2 to 3 hectares of a land, and that much land may not be available in the urban area. So you have to take care of the availability of the land. And my impression is, even in the rural area today, the land prices it used to be 2 decades back cheaper. Now no more. Even the land prices are cheaper in rural area. So we have to take into account the cost of the land, and accordingly the costing of the treatment solutions that we can work on. And there are reports published. Even in the NMCG report, one of the reports, the costing of different technologies available. Although it is 2,000 fail cost, but that could be the reference document if somebody wants to.
One question from Professor Bakul Rao, I think, unless it is some other Bakul. What is your take on dual water supply once water is treated and recycled? I would like to, in terms of citizens' cost, discipline to use, capacity of plumbers, etc. Or do you have only bulk water users in mind? She's talking of dual water supply after treatment.
Like in Israel, it has. But in India, I think considering my view, other panelists may differ. Considering the extent of the cities that we have, if we have to have dual water supply scheme, we are employing it on campus. I mean, that is under tender phase. So we are going to supply treated water for all horticulture purposes. But campus is again a small community. It is possible. For entire city, if I have to have another pipeline for treated sewage supply, so that will cost me huge, and then those municipalities have to accept that. People have to be, people should have acceptance of that. Then it is implementable. Like in Israel, for whole country they have this treated sewage pipeline, but the country is small. The extent of the pipeline is only 300 kilometers. Whereas here, for our small campus, the extent of pipe distribution is 70 kilometers for small campus. So you can imagine if I have to go for even the city like Kharagpur, it will be about 1,000 kilometers that I have to lay the treated water supply line. And for Mumbai, I can't imagine how much it will cost. It may be few thousand crores. So that investment will be required. So it is better to have decentralized sewage treatment plant so that the treated water supply lines will not be lengthy, and this treated sewage can be used on site nearby area. So that will cost less. That is my take on what Dr. Bakul has asked.
Okay. I think Professor Dinesh Mehta has mentioned same thing in one of his comments, that remote communities anyway need their own processing to have zero discharge and also reuse the treated water, which principally it is same. There is one question which probably you have addressed during presentation. It's an anonymous. Can it be possible to treat industrial effluents by primary, secondary and tertiary treatment as it contains toxic contents? It's talking of industrial effluents.
There are technology solutions available for industrial effluent treatment plants. I myself have designed more than 2 dozens industrial wastewater treatment plants. Depending upon the wastewater characteristics, meeting the norms of ZLD, the zero liquid discharge, is possible. Only the industry, as Professor Datta has already mentioned, only industries have to come forward, and they will only come forward when there is a stricter regulations. I will add on to this that, and I always say, and that is my philosophy, when we start charging realistic rate to the water, I mean realistic, not the subsidized rate. When there is a realistic rate being charged to the water, industry will jump in for treating it, because realistic rate of water, as already one panelist has asked, and the energy and other cost has been discussed by even Professor Manoj Tiwari. So the address by Professor Manoj Tiwari and Professor Sumit Chaudhary. If we start realistic rate, which will be around 30 rupees, as Professor Datta has also presented, so the cost of wastewater treatment will be lesser than that, and the industry will jump in to make it a profitable solution, and no longer the water pollution problem will persist in this country. But the problem persists because we are supplying subsidized water, and cost of treatment is much more than that, and that is why the agencies are reluctant to treat this.
One interesting question has come up, and Professor Ghangrekar, this relates to some of the discussion which we continuously have. We can promote installation execution of sewage treatment plants, but the issue is with maintenance. Is there any low maintenance model? And one of the aspect is skilling, that we can't have highly paid engineers or architects looking after them, but maybe your take would be more important on lowering the cost of continuous maintenance and actually maintaining them.
So, issue raised is very valid. I mean, in my previous European Union project, we surveyed some of the treatment plants, and we 55 sewage treatment plants spread over this country, and we observed that the design is fine. The issue is operational issue, because we have no trained manpower that is employed, or there is a lethargy in doing their job properly at the sewage treatment plant, and that is where the sewage treatment plants are not meeting compliance. But as it has asked, if there is a free maintenance solution, then the oxidation pond kind of the natural system can work. They don't demand any maintenance cost, but they demand huge land. To give you a rough idea, per capita around 0.2 to 0.5 meters square land area will be required depending upon the organic load present in that sewage. So that much area will be required for a city to treat the sewage. So the capital investment will be huge, but operating cost will be minimal. So we have to have break even what the municipality can afford, and accordingly we have to come up with the solution. But what
can we do in skilling so that actually we bring down the the level and actually have a large force which can at a village level, at a town level, community level maintain such plants?
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there is one question on attitude, related to attitude. It's an anonymous basis, that how do we build better attitude amongst people to conserve water, to reuse water, etc. And so it's a behavior change. So any quick comments on it? This is
yes, I can make a comment. The attitude change will follow if there is enforcement of the laws. We are very good. I have told it in other forums also, because we are not bad in making laws, but we are bad in implementing laws. Because in the city of Calcutta, about 1/3 of the total water supply, it goes down the drain, just leaking taps, wastage. So this can be this problem can be cured only if strong regulatory provisions are there and the laws are enforced. That if you waste water, you will be punished. You will have to pay penalty. That is the only way. Attitude will come if laws are enforced. Otherwise, the attitude will not change out of its own. That is what is my experience from many years of having been in a regulatory organization.
Okay. And now we come to the end of questions. I think there are some more. Yeah, sorry.
Also, if I can add a point to this attitude thing. Okay. So, see, we talk about stakeholder engagement in many this kind of program, the workshop and other things. But at ground level, still the stakeholder engagement in the water supply and sanitation is very minimum. The awareness, people are not aware about whatever the actual value of water, how they are getting water, how much subsidy they are getting into this. So all these things are not known to them, and until unless we integrate society, see, we have seen examples from many places. In Australia, constructed recycling facility from toilet to tap campaign was basically demolished because of the people's opposition, but same thing succeeded in Singapore. So how we are integrating the community, or how we are integrating the society in this sort of decision making when we are talking about, say, regulations. But regulations also, like if right away we say that you pay this much price for water, there will be so much repercussions, because people are not aware and they will suddenly say, oh, we were paying just 100 rupees earlier, now we have been asked to pay 1000 rupees for water. Why we should pay? Water is for free. So then there will be like a number of this kind of propositions will come to. So we have to integrate society in the process of decision making, process of implementation, process of this sort of like regulation framing. Then only probably things will improve.
Okay. I'll take liberty to spend 2 minutes more than the 2-3 minutes more, and please answer this very quickly. We'll run out of time soon. Xenobiotic compound treatment, just a 30-second answer, please. Why is the leave event stopped, Rahul? Rahul, please continue. Yeah, xenobiotic. Can anybody talk for 30 seconds on xenobiotic compound treatment?
Xenobiotic compounds are appearing more and more concentration in the sewage. We are actually using more than 80,000 xenobiotic compounds, and they are being getting into sewage. So we have knowledge about only 2,000-3,000 compounds, and the secondary sewage treatment is not effective in removing those xenobiotic compounds. So when we are talking about recycling the treated sewage for potable purpose, we really need to care for presence of these xenobiotic compounds, even at the micro level concentration, because some of these compounds have endocrine disrupting properties, and even at the micron concentration, they may be dangerous. And with that intent only, we are using 3-stage disinfection process, so that this ozonation and UV, with combination of chlorination, we are researching for the known compounds for their destruction. And more research is required. Worldwide, few groups are concentrating on the removal of the xenobiotic compounds, and research is on. But there is no tailor-made solution as of today that this technology will be able to remove everything. Obviously, the advanced oxidation process, some of them are capable to remove most of this known xenobiotic compound.
Okay. Very quick answer to Professor Dinesh Mehta's question, just in 10 seconds. Are water audits conducted in Calcutta?
Professor Datta, will be able to tell. Professor Datta?
No, absolutely none, nothing.
Okay.
Because
So,
lot of water, as I told you before, 1/3 of the city water supply goes down the drain because
yeah.
of leaking taps, leaking the piping network, and just overflow. Even in households, they have underground tanks, and then it fills out
So we
and
have.
overflows.
So
There is
let
no
me
water,
cut.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to cut short now all the questions. A few more are there, but maybe they can answer offline later on through mail or something. We come to the end. We have actually exceeded by 5 minutes. Professor B.K. Dubey, quick closing comments and vote of thanks from you.
Thank you, Mr. Vora. So this was the first of the series of the webinar. So we'll have several more coming as per the schedule, which is already there on the Wind Foundation website, as well as on different like social media platforms. So today's we had a wonderful discussion with Professor Datta, starting with his overview talk and sharing his experience for many decades, and that was really wonderful. And then followed by Professor Ghangrekar's talk on emerging technologies in terms of the wastewater. So we'd like to thank Professor Datta and Professor Ghangrekar for a wonderful talk. I would also like to thank Professor Tiwari and Professor Samik Chaudhary for their input for this wonderful webinar that we had in last on like 1.5 hours. And we would also like to thank Indrajit, our student who has actually done a lot of work in the background. Participants didn't see him, but he was doing a lot of work along with, of course, thanks are due to Mr. Paresh Vora and Santi Menon and Rahul Upadhyay, who worked so hard for last 2 weeks to get this, because the first webinar always requires a lot of effort. One, because we have the system in place now. From the next webinar, it will be easier. So that's we'd like to thank them for all the tiring effort to put this together. And last but not the least, the Wind Foundation. for the generous support to several research projects in India, which is supported, as you saw some examples today, and you'll see more examples in coming weeks. So I strongly encourage you to come back again in the next webinar. And Wind Foundation, we have Mr. Ron Mehta in the audience, so I would like to thank him and all his friends who have actually helped us have the Wind Foundation in place. So thank you very much, and I hand it over back to Mr. Vora.
So with this, the only thing left is, so we do come back next week, Thursday, same time. Don't share my photo, share the screen, please. Yeah. Next session is on water security. You can see the next session on screen, and of course you have mail. Next session is on water security, empowering communities to apply geohydrology, science, technology, and innovation at ground level for water security. Main speaker, Dr. Yogesh Jadeja, part of a very, very innovative and progressive organization, Arid Communities and Technologies from Bhuj, Kutch, Gujarat. Thank you all. Thank you for your patience, and see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can end the session now.